Hi, my name is Cristiano Veloso. I'm the founder and CEO of Verde AgriTech. Thank you for watching this live presentation. I hope this is just the first one of many. Before we begin with the presentation, I would like to ask you to click on subscribe. Two reasons. First reason, you can receive the updates every time we have a new video uploaded. But also secondly, we need to hit 1,000 subscribers so YouTube will allow us to do live broadcasts using a mobile device. So for this presentation, I'm going to be doing it using a desktop. If we had 1,000 subscribers, YouTube would allow us to be on the field, in the mine, wherever we are, holding a phone and doing a live, potentially even unscheduled presentation. So please help us. Click subscribe, ask your friends, family, fellow investors, fellow stakeholders to do the same. And very soon we're going to be doing those live presentations from the field. But for today, we will be doing it through a desktop presentation. I will be going through each and every one of our slides, approaching the key topics. Throughout the presentation, I will be answering some of the several questions we've received over the last few days about our developments, about our future plans. So please hang on there and make sure you listen and watch through the whole presentation. After the presentation, please email us if you have any questions. I hope we receive lots of comments, and we will be addressing all the questions raised. Some of the questions we received throughout the last few days, we won't be able to answer because they essentially would contain or would require disclosing material information, or would it be information we are not in a position to disclose at this point. So we unfortunately won't be able to address those points, but there were some very interesting, some very good questions which were raised, and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. Starting the presentation, those two sentences were written and said by two fellow Brazilians. These two gentlemen, they are behind InBev, Heinz acquisition, 3G Capital, and we really like their messages, and especially in the resource sector, with our experience, we have no doubt there is a lot of opportunity for increasing efficiency, doing things different, reducing costs. The agricultural world is the same thing, so they really inspire us to grow and carry on with the development of Verde AgriTech. As we begin the presentation, I would like to remind you that it contains some forward-looking statements, so please take your time and read the disclaimer. Actual results may differ. And with no further delay, I will start the presentation. First of all, we try to put together a slide with the 7 reasons that really keep us so focused and so committed to growing Verde AgriTech now and in the coming years. The first reason is, well, we're in production now. Not many not many exploration companies get to make to this stage. Some of them for good reasons, some of them for not so good reasons, but the bottom line is now we are in production, we're selling our product, and this brings us to the second reason. We have a massive mineral resource. All those years we spent drilling our area, our concessions, we had over 40,000 meters of drilling, and if you put that together, it exceeds 3 billion tons. So it is a massive mineral resource that we control. The third reason is, even though it's such a big resource, even though it's such a big market, we can build a scalable business. This is unique. We can start small, we can grow it, we can accumulate capital, we can study different project finance alternatives depending on how fast we want to build the project or to build the expansions. But we have choice. We have the option. We control when and how we will grow this business. Protecting the capital structure, making sure we can get our customers getting the product they so desperately want and need. But we have choice. We have choice. And this isn't a common thing for resource for development companies. Fourth reason, our product, Greensand, is disruptive. It is a fantastic product which has all the characteristics, all the advantages of specialty products, full of technology, full of benefits to the farmers. However, as we will see during the presentation, our cost structure is very low. So even though it's such a fantastic, disruptive specialty product, we don't need to be pricing it any higher than potassium chloride, than your conventional commodities, to achieve good margins in this business. Fifth reason, even though we aren't a very young company, we've been around for over 10 years now, we've been able to protect our capital structure. And protecting our capital structure is the same thing as protecting shareholders' interest. After all those years, we still have 37 million shares outstanding, and we will continue to protect that throughout the next 10, 20, 30 years of development, making sure dilution is the minimum required in order to progress the project. The sixth reason is our director, Mr. Alisson Paulinelli, a fantastic gentleman. I really wish each and every one of you could spend some time, could get to meet him. He is the father of tropical agriculture. He was awarded by the United Nations the World Food Prize. He's a former Minister of Agriculture. He's currently the president of the Brazilian Corn Growers Association, and he is our great leader. He has been fundamental for our development so far, and I'm sure he will be essential for our success. Seventh reason. Oh, there's a lot coming. There is a lot we're working on. There is a lot we're looking at. There's a lot we're doing, and I don't think there will be any shortage of developments for the coming months as we progress the business, as we continue expansion. Now on slide 5, this is one company, but you essentially get exposure to 4 investment themes. First one, crop protection. This is massive, about $50 billion annually, and Brazil is the biggest market. The biggest market. We have products which naturally increase crop resistance against pests, against diseases. And the word naturally here is very important. The market is saturated with very expensive, very toxic pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and and uh, um, and consumers aren't very pleased about that. So there has been a lot of pressure, not just moving towards organics, but just reducing the amount of chemical residues you have on the food that gets to your table. So this is what our products do in combination with those chemicals. They really allow farmers to be reducing the amount of chemicals and toxic products they use. So this is something we will be talking about in the coming months, in the coming years, but it's something we're passionate about, given the whole implication, everything which is going on with public health and what we can contribute there. Second one is crop nutrition. It's a major market. Brazil is one of the largest. It's the biggest consumer of a number of the key nutrients, and we not only supply nutrients, but we also have the capacity, given our products, to increase the availability of nutrients in the soil itself. So there's some interesting elements in our product which they will react in the soil in a natural way, and when they do, they release, for instance, phosphate. They will make micronutrients more available. They will help retaining nitrogen. So this is really a clever mechanism, and it is an industry which we will be offering you some further exposure. Third one is water. A lot of people look at how to invest in water. It isn't an easy investment thing to get exposure to, but some clever people, they talk about how water is mainly used for agriculture in the world, and then therefore, if you want exposure, you need to look at agriculture. Well, what our products do here is essentially two mechanisms. The first one, it will make crops more efficient in its water usage. So the crop will be able to do the same using less water, given this enhanced efficiency. The second mechanism is, once applied to the soil, our products, they will increase the soil capacity to retain water. A lot of the soils worldwide, especially a lot of the Cerrado soils in Brazil, they can't even hold water given the nature, very sandy soils. So what our product does is to retain it. It can retain the same amount of its weight in water. So this will be another advantage in terms of the sector, the water sector. The fourth investment theme is organics and cannabis. We all saw Amazon acquiring Whole Foods last week, and all you need is to go to a local supermarket or local shop to see the growth you have in organic agriculture. And they're very pleased not only that we're exporting to the US market for the organic sector in the US market, but we're very pleased in how our product helps making organic food very healthy, or much healthier, because we have so many nutrients. We have about 70 different elements, nutrients in our product. So essentially, a lot of them will be uptaken by crops and will deliver a healthier product. So this is something very important. And the other one, which is growing, it's cannabis. We were told we have the potential to be the product of choice for the cannabis market. We're already selling to the sector, and it's hard not to be excited about the potential growth. Super Greensand can benefit from the cannabis market. So those are the four investment themes, the major investment themes you get exposure to when you join us in this. We'll start now with what we own in terms of a mineral resource. This is a photo of our mine, the beginning of it, just a site preparation. There is a YouTube video on our channel. Please go and watch it, where there is more mining activity in progress, and what you see is what gets processed into super greensand. So it's a rock, very unique rock, loaded with a lot of agricultural nutrients, loaded with some very important mineralogical benefits for agriculture, and those this is what is processed from surface. Remember, we've been drilling this area, we've been selecting it since 2009, and at one point we controlled over 200,000 hectares. We've drilled it, and if we were going to get all of that resource and use all of that resource to produce, just looking at potash, it would be enough potash to make Brazil to supply the entire country. We're not looking at it. This isn't our business plan, as we'll see later on. But this gives you an idea of how important. On here we have the resource table, and one of the questions we received was if we had any plans to do further drilling to upgrade our resource. The answer is no. If you look at the total indicated resource we currently have, over 1 billion tons, this is more than enough to support the pre-feasibility we're working on, the production schedule we're working on. So there's no need. Drilling is expensive. Drilling takes time, and there is no need because we've done that before. Over 40 kilometers of drill logs we have. It was a lot of drilling we did. It was a lot of money spent to make sure we fully understand and fully control this unique deposit. Now on slide 7, we present a little bit of the development. For those of you who are just now becoming more familiar with Verde AgriTech. So we began in 2008. Throughout 4 years, we've done a lot of drilling and agronomic trials. In 2013, we started compiling a lot of those agronomic trials we had been receiving. A very important one was received towards the end of 2013, showing how super greensand, at the time just a mineral known between us as siltito glauconítico, how it delivered some amazing agricultural performances. Then we went on to understand what that product had that was delivering some important results. We did a lot of mineralogical, chemical studies, more agronomic trials. We acquired a full understanding. And in 2015, we started several trials with universities, with research institutes, with some very large agricultural growers. And agriculture takes time. We started getting some results, compiling it, understanding. And it was in 2016 we got together and say, look, we really have something here. We need a brand name, Super Greensand. That became the name of the mineralization. Carried on the development. 2017, it was approved for organic production in the United States by OMRI, the Organic Material Reviews Institute, and we began production, as you know, in May, and that was how the development took place. The understanding to get to where we are now. And it is a simple product to produce. have to remember Professor Derek Frey from Cambridge, who worked with us in other projects, and how many times he told me, Chris, we need simple solutions for complex problems. And Super Greensand is a perfect example for that. It is a multi-purpose product. We discussed a little bit of that when we spoke about the different investment themes you get exposure to, and it's multi-nutrient. You're delivering several of them. This table now will compare Super Greensand against potassium chloride, against a commodity. But you could have in exchange of KCl, you could have on that table all the other premium sources of potassium, potassium nitrate, potassium sulfate. You could have some other advanced technological products, and I guarantee you we would still be comparing very, very well with several advantages. Starting with nutrients. Each grain of our product has a bunch of them, including what agriculture calls the essential macronutrients, including micronutrients, but also including all those other nutrients agriculture hasn't yet been able to prove it can help in plant development, but we all know how important they are in our diet, and our product is packed with those nutrients. Second advantage is salinity. We're going to see this a little bit further down the presentation, but this is crucial. I won't talk about it right now. I will talk, though, about product losses in tropical soils and sandy soils, and this is a major advantage because we aren't a salt. Our solubility in water is very low. All the other sources of potassium, a lot of the other fertilizers, they're highly soluble in water. And because they're highly soluble in water, when you apply them into tropical soils and tropical climate, with the heavy rains we get, a lot of it is washed away. Farmers understand that, and this is a very important advantage. To give you an idea, what a lot of companies have been doing in terms of new product development is to get those chemicals, those salt fertilizers, and put fancy capsules on it, nanotechnology. So they spend a lot of money trying to make that highly water soluble product a slow release, whereas ours by nature is slow release. So this is just an example on how many of those specialty advantages Super Greensand has. The other one is water holding capacity. We've mentioned that before. It's approved for organic agriculture. Now, impact on soil microorganisms. That is an interesting one. That is a very important one. It, no doubt, will foster development of microorganisms. It's a natural product. Microorganisms also need several nutrients, so we provide different nutrients for them. We provide a favorable environment against the salt products, which don't react very well. A lot of them have chloride. Chloride, you know for what you use chloride in your home, so they don't go together necessarily. But what is very interesting here in terms of microorganisms is the amount of investment by startups and by major companies on selecting, identifying, and then selling to farmers beneficial microorganisms they can apply. There's a whole range of microorganisms which will help on crop protection, crop nutrition, and literally hundreds of millions of dollars going into this development. Several startups raising a lot of money, and we have a whole range of conventional fertilizers, conventional products, which frankly they don't go well with this new science, with this whole range of investment. Our product does, and we're very happy about that. Other advantage in terms of retaining water, we spoke about it, but in addition to water, it also holds nutrients, very important. We spoke about how our product increases crop protection, another advantage. And then market size. This is a question we had a lot of from investors. What do you see in Brazil as the market size for your product. I think the production target helps illustrating how much of a bigger market we envisage for our product. But it's important to remind you, a farmer is a very conservative group, and the three things they cannot control. So they cannot control the weather, they cannot control commodity prices entirely, and they cannot control pests, diseases. Every season there's the potential for something new which creates a major damage. So for a farmer, it's very difficult for you to convince him to increase the investment of their season. Because those three things that he cannot control can really come and translate it all into a loss. So for that reason, how we are pricing our product, Super Greensand, and how we talk to farmers about it is essentially well, you need to remember they're bombarded by new products every day. Literally, depending on the farmer, they have someone knocking on their door to present the next big product, and some of them, they even make jokes that if they were going to add all of those products together, so they could they would have a production increase, a extra yields of 10, 20 folds. That's how much promise they get from the specialty products, which also cost a lot of money. So we kind of avoid that. Our conversation eye to eye with the farmer here in Brazil is, okay, you already use potash, right? Yes. And you already pay X for your potash, correct? Yes, I do. So the value proposition here is that he will not pay anything more for the potash he currently uses. So we aren't charging anything else. We aren't increasing the cost for the farmer. He still pays the same amount he currently does for their potash. But then we show to them all the other benefits which come for free. So he gets all of those other nutrients for free. He gets the water holding capacity for free. He gets the benefits in terms of retaining nutrients for free. He gets the absence of chloride for free. The impact it has in the soils in terms of improving the soils itself, he gets all of that free. And then this opens doors. Of course, a farmer is still conservative. So very rarely he replaces 100% of their potash needs on year one with our product. But what we're seeing is they're replacing small acreage to start with, to start testing the product, with a view that if next year, following year, if he sees better or similar results to what he was getting, he will look at replacing it. So this is how it is presented to the farmers. This is how we're developing a business. This is a product with all the advantages of those fancy specialty fertilizers you have in the market, only that we have the advantage of selling it to farmers without increasing their costs. And this is magic when you're talking to them. One of the big reasons for that, we're in Brazil. So we are selling down the road. We don't need to travel thousands and thousands of miles to bring the product into the country. And this, of course, translates. The other advantage we have is because we're in the country, we can really cut the middleman. And this is something else farmers love. They are buying it straight from the producer. There's no middleman. It's not changing hands. Again, different from most of the imported commodities where you have a number of parties on the way. Ours is straight from us to them as farmers. Well, after that, we need to talk about our business plan. You can see on the map on the left-hand side what a great location we have. Minas Gerais state, the world's largest coffee grower, one of the world's largest sugarcane growers, a number of other important crops. But not only Minas Gerais, our home state, you can see how close it is to Belo Horizonte, the hometown for me and three of our other directors. we have a fantastic logistic to supply the best areas in terms of Cerrado, where the best cultivation is, very cheap transportation cost to get our product to them, and this will benefit us. So on the right hand side of your slide, you see our production target. That production target, we started this year with 20,000 tons. One question we received was how confident you are you're going to be able to sell 20,000 tons. At this point, we're very confident. And then we have our expansions. This is a target for now. As part of the PFS, we're looking at the feasibility and the best strategy to grow it, potential to grow it faster or slower, to further accommodate capital investment. So there's a lot of discussion going on in terms of what best it is to plan our expansion. So this is really just a target and illustration. We need to wait now for the pre-feasibility study to be available at the end of the year to see what it will look like. Another question we received here was in terms of environmental permits. We have the environmental permits application to allow us to expand in the coming years. We expect to receive some further results in terms of the applications now in the second half of the year. So I would say that the applications for up to 2019 are all covered. From 19 onwards, a lot of them they can come up from the current application. So this is something we've spent, as you all remember, a lot of time and money doing a lot of environmental impact assessments over the last few years, a lot of studies, and we're now in a good position to be planning this expansion with very good knowledge of what will be required and what will not be required. Important to remember in terms of environmental permits, okay? This is exciting. This is exciting. This area we're gonna mine is just pasture land now. In the past, before pasture, it was all covered by pristine rainforest, by forests, tropical forests, and now it's essentially all of it just pasture, degraded pasture area. How we see this project is as one of the world's largest reforestation projects. So what we're doing is a full diagnosis how many species, plant, trees, what we have there now, which isn't much, unfortunately. But throughout our mining development, we will be converting that area into one of the best, richest conservation areas in the world. And then when it's finished, we're going to bring it back to its full exuberance in terms of trees, species, endangered species, and this is something we're very excited. This is how we see it in terms of environmental development, an area which is virtually worthless nowadays, but at the end of our activity will be exuberant again. And we're very happy, okay, to be able to do that. We're very happy that the development of our project will give us the opportunity to make such an important contribution to the environment. The other point here, now talking a little bit about our market development, both looking at Brazil and then looking at the United States. First, looking at Brazil, it is a massive market, and there are several advantages our product has as we went through. But one advantage I didn't talk about before, and I will use this slide here to do so, is making a farmer's life easier with our product. Okay, and before I explain to you how this is possible, I need to tell a little bit how it's done currently. For example, let's say you are a coffee grower, and coffee needs a lot of potash between 300 and 400 kilograms of K2O, potassium oxide, potassium per hectare. And that's how much potash you need to give to your coffee beans, so you get to the yields you want in terms of commercial production. When you apply it using a potassium salt, you cannot apply all of that potassium coffee needs all at once. Two big reasons. First one, it's a salt. It burns the roots, kills a lot of those soil beneficial microorganisms. So you would increase salinity in your soil so badly that you just don't. You split the application. The second reason is we all saw how much it washes away. We all saw how a lot of companies are investing a lot of money in creating some very expensive products that encapsulate and make the conventional salt, potassium salt fertilizers slow release. So they currently have to divide the applications throughout the year. If you're a coffee grower, you're going to be doing it up to 4 times. So instead of going to the beach, instead of enjoying yourself, instead of spending time with the family, whatever you want to do, you need to go back to your farm, to your plantation, and then you split the application in 4 times. With super Greensand, given the nature of the product, the absence of salinity, the slow release nature of its nutrients, you can do it all at once. You make one single application of our product, and this will last, and this will be enough to replace all those 3 other applications. So this is a major benefit, and this is something which is a major trend regardless. The only problem is the other conventional salt fertilizers, given the nature of them, they need to spend a lot of money to try to slow down that release. I think from this slide, something else we need to highlight, and you see on the last line, is tobacco. When you talk about premium potash fertilizer, sulfate of potash, polyhalite, you name it, usually people present a lot of potential markets, but the market, which is the biggest one, no doubt, is tobacco. Most of the other crops, if you apply something with chloride, the results might go down a bit, but the crop will survive, okay? When it comes to tobacco, there's a major impact. If you apply potassium chloride, if you apply all that chloride, your tobacco will not light. And I think, tobacco companies they need to burn. So they don't use potassium chloride, and they go for the expensive replacements, sulfate of potash, nitrate of potash. A few weeks ago, we put out a press release showing how well our product performed against conventional sulfate of potash. The advantage here, though, is, as we saw there, even though we are a specialty premium product, we won't need to charge the premium for that. So a tobacco grower, and Brazil is the second largest producer of tobacco in the world. It is the biggest exporter of tobacco in the world. They will no longer need to pay the expensive premium if they opt to change for our product. The other advantage is, currently, they need to divide the application. They need to split the application. So a tobacco grower will be making 3 applications of potassium sulfate or nitrate of potash after it plants tobacco. In our case, it's just one application, and we give them flexibility to do it. In this case, the test was done 2-3 months even before the planting season. So this is another major advantage. Before I go to the other slide, we talk about location, okay, and location is very important in agriculture. But I think this slide helps you understand the importance of our location. If you think about coffee, for instance, okay, with those over 2 million hectares, essentially all of it is grown in our state, not far away from where we are, just a stone's throw, literally, from where our production takes place. Sugarcane, São Paulo state next to us, Minas Gerais state has massive sugarcane plantations, grains likewise. So we are very lucky to, not saying we, but I mean the global population is very lucky with the location for this unique, high grade, huge deposit. This is Brazil, what we're looking at. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the US market, where different to Brazil, we have in Brazil we're looking at all crops, all regions. Of course, some of them have great benefits, but we're looking at the whole market itself. In the US, it's a much more focused approach. There are three niche markets we're developing, we're selling to. First one is organics. It's massive. This is our product available for sale in the United States, already being sold in the United States in certain states, and you see, the biggest states in terms of acreage, in terms of number of farms, and this is something we can see our supply to the United States and other countries potentially growing a lot, focusing on organic. The second one is cannabis. It's a new industry. We were told there is the potential for our product to become the product of choice, and more and more states are legalizing it either for medical or recreational usage. We've sold. You can see a nice photo of our first truck taking material to the port or on our first shipment. Third market is almonds and grapes. I'll focus here on almonds because on its own it's already a huge opportunity. When you have some time, please go and read some of those articles. They talk a lot about salinity, what salinity can do to crops. And on the left-hand side, you have a table highlighting salt tolerance of agricultural crops. It's a long table, has all of them, but I only have there the first or the most sensitive ones to salinity, and you can see where almond is. It's a big impact. It's a big impact in terms of decreased yields. So it is sad to also tell you that about 80% of all almonds grown in the United States, or California at least, which is by far the biggest producer, is grown in the Central Valley of California, which has some massive salinity issues. And when you add a potassium salt, which will from the table in the next slide 16, you're really adding to the problem. So when you talk about salinity index for a fertilizer, you can either look at the total salinity, or you can adjust that salinity depending on the content of potassium it has. So for instance, if you look at magnesium potassium sulfate or polyhalite, you will see that the salinity index is lower than, for instance, potassium chloride. However, when you adjust by the content of potassium each one of those products has, which is essentially how much you need to apply, you will see how worse they compare against the other products. And when you compare all of them with our product, you see what a big problem it is. Of course, if you just apply in one season, it might be okay, but the problem becomes when you apply it year after year, season after season, literally thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of tons of fertilizers with a high salinity index. So this really adds to the problem. And this is something we help with Super Greensand. This is something we're very excited about, given the impact, the benefits it can bring, not just to the growers, but to the communities which share that water. It's not, remember, one of the investment themes, it's water salinity and everything. Remember, it's not just the farmers using it. A lot of it's for other users, and a lot of it is you adding salt to it. So we're very pleased with the impact we will have in the broader community, which also suffers from soil salinity. Now a little bit about our team. We have a very lean structure in terms of how many people and we have in our structure. You will see that we currently don't have any vice president. It's really us and everyone doing the job itself they're supposed to be doing. Nevertheless, it's a highly committed, very technical team, very passionate about what we're doing, and we're very pleased to be led by this gentleman on the right hand side, one of the most brilliant persons I've ever met in my whole life, and no doubt the most influential, the most loved person in the agricultural sector in Brazil. And I'm sure if more people knew about the story, what he did in terms of developing the Cerrado land, even internationally, he would be even furthermore recognized than he has already been by winning the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Agriculture, which is the United Nations World Food Prize, which he won a few years ago. So very happy to be working with Alisson Paulinelli in the development of this project, as well as, of course, our other directors and contractors and partners. Our share structure. They have very little shares outstanding for a company that has been around for this long. Since I began the company in 2005, I've never sold a single share. To the contrary, I've just bought more shares in the market. Since January, I'm not paid a salary. It's shares converted from the share price when the conversion takes place. Cash position as of March, our burn rate, which went down a lot, and then we see a divide of our equity issues throughout the years since our pre-IPO in 2006 to 2005. Then we did our IPO in November 2007 for $16 million at 120. Then in early 2011, another $14 million at about $4. And then the last capital raise we ever did, which was March 2012, at about $645 for another $28 million. And this is the capital we still have in the bank. That's the capital we've preserved and deployed throughout the years to take us through production, to take us to a position where we're now planning our expansion. Milestones for Q2, all of them were delivered: mine permit, contractor, industrialization contractor, mine startup. And now we're looking for the coming ones on Q3. We hope to be announcing very soon this distributor in the US. We're hoping to be sold out in Brazil very soon. We're working to get this completion of the pre-feasibility by the end of the year, and then looking at producing about 300,000 tons the following year. Why Verde? Why now? Well, 7 reasons. We went through them, but we're in production. It's a huge mineral resource. It's a scalable project. Super Greensandis is disruptive. We don't have many shares outstanding. Love to have Alisson Paulinelli as director. Very helpful, very passionate about what we're doing. Lots of development in the coming months. You're getting 4 themes exposure to is crop protection, water, crop nutrition, and organics. There is potential for exponential growth in terms of demand. A farmer will start switching a small portion, then he will grow it, but then later on he will replace it all. So it's not like they will keep increasing smaller and smaller parts of the land every year. And finally, there's a lot coming on with the US distributor announcement, production sold out, our pre-feasibility study for bigger production. So this is something we are very excited for, this disruptive, highly innovative product, which has all the advantages of a specialty niche type of product, however priced so it can compete for the broader agricultural market. Our address in Brazil, if you're ever in town, please drop by, let's have a coffee. And I will use the following slides now from the appendix of this presentation to address some of the questions we received in the last few weeks. So one question we had was in terms of change in legislation. Okay, some of our investors, some people, they remember how a few years ago agriculture in Brazil suffered a lot because there was a new interpretation of legislation which came up and determined that foreign international companies wouldn't be able to own large parcels of agricultural land in the country. This was a nuclear bomb for the sector in the country. At the time, we had a lot of groups, a lot of large corporations looking to invest, already acquiring major projects, and all of a sudden, they all came to a standstill. No more investment. Those huge groups started selling parcels of land, and that is still a big problem in Brazil. So the current legislation, what is there in terms of interpretation, won't allow an international company, an international investor to hold a big parcel of land. What we're hearing, though, is there is a very high likelihood this will change next year. Was supposed to change this year. Of course, as you might have read in the news, there hasn't been a shortage of scandals, political scandals in the country that was a problem in terms of getting this new legislation approved in Congress. But when we talk to the experts here in Brazil, they expect this to come for next year. And then what you're going to see for next year, in our view, is a country that is not just coming out of its world recession ever, but with one of its most exciting sectors, i.e. the agricultural sector, with a new piece of legislation which will then allow the international companies to come and start investing big time in agriculture. So this is something we're very excited. We can start seeing some groups, some of the world's biggest investors already looking at how they're going to play it, what they're going to do about it. But this is something which isn't so much in the international media, isn't spoken so much. I'm even going to be doing a special YouTube video about this change to come. But we have no doubt this will be a game changer for the country after so many years of standstill. And you can see on the right hand side the role Brazil already plays in terms of its importance in agricultural production. But what you still have in Brazil is about 200 million hectares of agricultural land which isn't currently developed. It's all this land and a lot of capital in the world, as you all know, thanks to the federal banks, and frankly, it's a fantastic place to be investing in, and it's something we will be positioned, no doubt, to assist all those groups in how they will be making their newly acquired plot of land, not just more fertile, but more sustainable. This is something we're excited about. We received from investors was how Brazil was doing in terms of potash consumption. The answer is it could be better if the legislation had changed, but it's still well above the average growth in potash consumption. Few days ago, the IFA, International Fertilizer Association, came up with a market forecast in terms of world's growth, and they wrote there it's the big demand is really going to come from Brazil, which is already the biggest importer of potash in the world, and it is the second largest consumer behind China. Took over the United States, and I don't need to remember you how more than 95% of potash which comes to Brazil is currently agricultural partnerships. You can look at it later on. But the other question we received was in terms of pricing. So if you are a KCl producer, this example here is in Saskatchewan, but you could look at the Russian producers and everything. You're going to have, let's say, your FOB price, your FOB cost, but then you need to add a rail transportation to the port. Then when you get to the port, you end up with an FOB price. Of course, you need to pay the local port charges. The current FOB price for KCl is about $210 FOB Vancouver, but then you need to put that into a ship and bring it to a port in Brazil, which also has some costs, which you need to add them all on. There is a bottleneck when everyone is importing potash into Brazil, so there is the demurrage to be paid. Some of those ships, they need to wait there for several days before they can unload their cargoes. There's a tax which applies to transportation cost, which needs to be added. And then you need, from the port, to transport this product to a distributor, to a fertilizer distributor. Fertilizer in Brazil aren't imported by farmers because they would need to bring whole ship logistics, so they don't bring full ships of potash. They buy it from distributors. You have the transportation for the distributor, and then after this transportation to the distributor, well, this distributor will have costs. So we put there about $30, but some of them will be charging more than that too, because they have the whole materials handling. They are dealing with the exchange rate risks when importing something and paying US dollars and selling it to local currency. And they also have a big problem, which is a lot of the product throughout those thousands and thousands of miles becomes out of specification, and so they have losses in terms of the product they buy from port. And then of course they need to sell it. So if a farmer, now you need to pay the transportation cost from the Brazilian distributor down to your farm. And depending on where your farm is, you're going to pay anything from $10 to about $50 per ton from your local distributor, finally to the farmer. So all in, for a current KCl FOB price of about $210, public information, or if you want to look at which is also public information, which is the CFR price for Brazil, we just add this 25, it's currently about $235, $240 per ton, but you need all this other cost, and it's all this other cost that we actually compete against, which is how much it costs for a unit of potash from a farmer to get delivered into Brazil. If you were going to do the same thing here for the premium source of potash, the FOB price for, let's say, sulfate of potash is about $500. So you can see how much bigger the cost would be. But let's remember again, we are really selling this specialty, fantastic product for the same prices they currently pay for potash. Looking at the commodity, we're not looking for any additional value. no need to charge any additional value for those other points. Another question we received is about alpha. You might remember we did a press release a few months ago talking about alpha. It's a phenomenal product for foliar application. When I say foliar application, you're diluting a couple of pounds of the product into water, and that gets sprayed by farmers alongside other products. And the benefits we're seeing here are substantial. So we're seeing increased productivity, we're seeing an increase in photosynthesis, low incidence of diseases, and it's a product we are very excited. To give you an idea, there's an international congress which looks at this conference, at this type of product. Later on, there will be a special panel presenting alpha. It's something which isn't in our, and will likely not be in our financial projections, which we're going to be focused on Super Greensand to keep it focused. But it is a product which we will be developing. Don't forget, we are an agri-tech company. We will be developing in the coming years, and it's a phenomenal product for foliar application, which we really believe will be helping farmers to replace expensive, highly chemical, highly damaging pesticides and with a natural application. Other product we've received some questions is about TK47. TK47 is a product, yes, we will be producing. It's a great way to incorporate all the micronutrients in greater quantities to the product. So it's something that later on we will be looking to produce, to supply some special niche applications. We have years of studies and proving the very superior yields, and we will also be looking at later down the line on development. A lot of questions as well in terms of new product development. Right now, the focus is on Super Greensand. That's what we're doing, both in Brazil and international. But there are other very interesting products we're working in the coming years. We will be supplying, but it's worth mentioning them right now. One is camel lawn. Okay, the market for camel lawn is lawn care, worth billions of dollars in the United States. Organic lawn care has been growing a lot, and this product has a very, very important characteristic. It can really help lawn excel, perform with less water. It becomes more resistant against heat, against drought. So this is something we will carry on working on. Another range of products we're looking on is Bio-K Plus. And what we do here is incorporate microorganisms, soil beneficial microorganisms, which are currently receiving hundreds of millions of dollars investments from other startups, incorporating those products to our range of products and offering it as a combined application media. This is also interesting. We have some development here, and we believe on the potential. The third one is very exciting as well. It's Greensand cat litter. Cat litter market in the United States is worth $2 billion, and the currently available sources of cat litter you have in the market aren't necessarily either the best one for the environment or the best one for your cat. So you have some sources which are mineral-based sources, which once they are disposed of, they don't contribute to the environment. They release some dust, which once inhaled by cats, makes a big problem to their lungs because they expand a lot in contact with water and humidity. And then you have a lot of organic and natural products based of let's say pine or corn, which they either not perform so well in terms of retaining odor, controlling odor, or they require a lot of chemical application in order to control odor, and they also have some some problems in terms of the ones which comes from grains, in terms of something called mycotoxins, which is a fungus development you have, which can cause cancer, and it's a problem. So what we have in face of all this problem, to this $2 billion industry, is a product which comes from our mineral. We've tested it, works phenomenally well, and the advantages for the environment are huge. So it will once it's used as a cat litter, once it's disposed, it offers two alternatives. The first alternative is to compost it. A lot of growth in home composting in the US, and when you're composting it, our product is making the compost an even better fertilizer. It's providing nutrients for those microorganisms required in composting. It's providing aeration for composting. And it's already a soil conditioner. It already provides nutrients. So when you apply that compost to your garden, to your lawn, it's a much richer, it's a better compost. And it's a phenomenally, it's a great destination for this product. The other one is, once you send it to a landfill, or if it makes its way to the landfill, there's major problems with how much, and calculations in the US of how much cat litter is being sent to landfills and all the environmental problems from that. But in our case, when it goes to the landfill, it has some phenomenal advantages. One, it will keep retaining ammonia. Ammonia is a gas, one of the greenhouse gases, so it will help retain some of that ammonia which gets released by landfills. And the other advantage you get is, given the mineral in the mineralogy there, it helps retaining metals. And when we look at the metals, our product will also help complexing and retaining some heavy metals, which you often find a lot of them in landfills, and a lot of them gets leached away down to the water table, especially in the older landfills. So it will have this other contribution. So this is something we're working on for the coming months or years, and it's another product we hope to be developing. Last one, KP-Fertil, that is a product we've been working for a number of years, but it's a granulated version of our product which gets added with some phosphate, gets increased with some sulfur. We're looking at increasing even some nitrogen. So it's another very interesting product we have, and we've had this one under development for a number of years now, and something we will be working on. So I'd like to thank you. This concludes our presentation today. Thanks a lot for the current shareholders who have been supporting us for a number of years. We're looking forward to establishing relationships with you guys who aren't investors yet. We're always available to talk, conference calls, if you have further questions. But before I finish this presentation, please, either if you liked it or you didn't like, just go and hit subscribe. Because if you liked it, you should already have been subscribed to it. If not, it's time to do it now. Hit subscribe. And if you didn't like, also hit subscribe, because I'm sure with the following updates, once we answer questions, once we speak a bit further about what we're doing, I'm pretty sure, very confident, you will change your mind. So also click and subscribe, hit like if you like the presentation, and I really hope we're going to get to those 1,000 subscribers, and very soon we're going to be going live straight from the mines, straight from the fields, straight from the plantations, straight talking to farmers, so you can really keep following closely our development as we develop the company, the deposit, everything we're doing to reach its full potential. So thank you a lot, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you. Bye.